everyone, I'm Katie from Life Fluent, and this is my first time doing a video geared towards teachers. I think mainly because when I work with teens, I feel so comfy. It's like, that's my safe space. When I go with teens, I know a lot of people feel judged by teens, but I just feel like internally I am a teenager. So I'm like, my people, you know, I feel like I can joke, I can be way more sincere in a way. And then every time I go into like the teacher room or the staff room, I feel like, oh, I don't know, like there was just a sense of I need to be professional. And so when I made all of these resources for me, it was just like so obvious that I would make them in the tone geared towards teens. I would make videos towards teens, and I had no problem with that. But I think recently I've been realizing I need to start talking to teachers. Like, you guys are in the end who I'm making it for. I'm making it for you to be able to have a better experience teaching. And yes, your teens are, you know, the beneficiaries of that. But in the end, I'm talking to you and I'm making these resources for you. But the topic that I wanted to talk about today that is one of the most frequently asked questions or comments I hear is, I just don't think my students will get engaged with this, or I could never get the shy kids to talk. Here's what I found works, and everybody's different. Everyone has different teaching styles, but if you are using any of the Life Fluent resources, you'll probably see that there is a style that I tend to lean towards. A majority of them are like simulation, games, what's the word I'm thinking of? Station activities, like really a lot of movements required. But how to get them engaged. So let's say you're imagining a group of 20 students, and you have in the 20 students 3 or 4 that are super chatty, then let's say 5 or 6 that are pretty quiet, right? But they chat. Like if you call their names, they will talk. Let's say the majority, then the rest of them are going to be you know, an average speaker, and then let's say 1 or 2 that are just absolutely dead silent. Like you would not recognize them in the dark if they said something. Like you would be totally confused. And I didn't really check the numbers on what I did on that, so I hope the math is adding up to 20 or whatever, but stick with me. Okay, so how I would structure the class is I would want at the beginning to start with bell ringers. Bell ringers are a perfect way to get the students interested from the start. Think about Instagram or TikTok, which if you're watching this right now, today TikTok is the first day that it's banned in the States. So this might age well or not well, let's see. When you're making a reel, one of the first things that they say is you need a hook. You need something to catch people's attention right away. And the sad truth is your teens are probably the same. Right? So they have this little part of them that's like, if you don't catch me from the start, I am out. I will be napping. I will be trying to play with my phone under the pencil case, all the tricks we know. They will do that if you start on a really boring note. And I will just tell you that the bell ringers I have seen are pretty bad. Like pretty bad. It's like no illustration, a really basic fact-based question that doesn't have any tease to it, doesn't have any like anticipatory, what's the answer gonna be? It's just like a generic health-related question to the topic that you're gonna talk about today, and you just take attendance while it's there. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna be your hook. If it was an Instagram reel, the algorithm would forget about you and post something else more exciting, right? And that will be their phone or their friend or their, you know, nap time. So you need to hook them from the start. And that's why I like to have bell ringers that have memes, that have something related to what's going on culturally now, whether that's pop songs, series, music. Any of those things can be applied to your topic of the day. Let's say your topic is nutrition. If that's your topic, what culturally could you reference that could also lead into the conversation about nutrition? And one of the things I've always been fascinated with are those mukbang videos, like the videos of people eating enormous amounts of food and calories that you just can't even comprehend. And they have like these microphones that you can like hear them when they're eating, like ASMR, very bizarre. But those are some of the most watched videos on YouTube, right? So this is a perfect way to start with something really interesting and ask them a question about a cultural phenomenon. For example, how do these mukbang videos influence people culturally around the purpose of food, and how does it actually impact the person taking part in mukbangs? Because basically all a mukbang is it's just videoing someone binge eating. So you could ask somebody about binge eating, like what is binge eating and how does it impact the body? That could be a question, but that's boring. Whereas you can hook them with a question about something relevant. And I can guarantee you some of the quietest students will be like, oh my gosh, I love those videos. And then you instantly are able to get people in. You've hooked them in. And so you're taking their interests and you are applying it to the topic. So that's how I like to start the day, get those things going. I like to include memes, pictures, videos. Okay, now let's move into what the activity of the day could be. Let's say you're doing a simulation. And if you're doing a simulation, that means you're going to need to organize your groups. And organizing groups, I see this one mistake so often. So many times, teachers, when they are putting together their groups of students, they think, okay, I need to separate the chatty students first. But I also need to put the chatty student with one of the quietest students, right? So that it can balance out the amount of talking. Do you know what's gonna happen? You probably have already seen it. The chatty student's gonna take over the entire simulation. They will be the one speaking, they will be the one researching, they will be the one distracting. They will own that simulation, and the rest of the class and the rest of the students will just be sitting back and chilling, right? So what I would recommend you doing is I would pair the quietest student with the student that's maybe a middle range of talking. Let's say a medium talker, not the chattiest, but a medium talker that has the trust of the quiet student, okay? That can help get them out and it won't overpower them. So basically when I'm putting together the simulation groups, I'm focusing on who, like their level of chattiness, and I focus on the quietest students. I also try and give them roles that are not super expressive based. Meaning, if you're doing the LAIE conflict resolution simulation, I wouldn't give the quietest students, for example, the one where they are losing their homes and they're very upset or they're highly emotional, because I find that the quiet students feel super uncomfortable being in that role where they have to act and pretend. Versus if I were to give them, for example, the university in that context, which is more fact-based, which is more research-based, and doesn't have quite as much emotion. So I find that if you're going to be doing that, you're going to be doing a simulation, make sure that you give the medium talkers, put them with a really quiet student, give them a less expressive role, and leave the expression and the waterworks and all of the chattiness to the chatty students, because then they will make this simulation really good. So all of my simulations, I try and make sure that I have those varied so that it's possible for students. And also, if you have ESL students in your class that do not feel comfortable speaking much, a research-based role is also really good, because then they can learn a couple facts, they can write it down, then they can speak it, and it doesn't rely on the acting as much as them presenting something. So that's if you're doing a simulation. The same goes for if you're doing a station activity or any of the other ones. Making sure you found really good groups is going to be really impactful. The other thing is having a timer up during the time of the preparation or the activity. So you always have a timer going, and then you can pause throughout and you can switch who is the main leader of the group. So for example, you can number off students. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog snoring over in the corner, but that's what it is, if you hear it. What I was saying is you can number your students in the group, and every 10 minutes, for example, you can change who's the leader and say, okay, we have leader number 1 now, or leader number 2 now, or leader number 3, and that can help get the participation a little bit more even. And I would like to do that. Okay, now you have the activity, it went well, you got students moving, so you started with the engaging hook, you then went into a hands-on student-led activity, simulation-based. Now the ending. This is this is the good stuff. Because if you don't know how to anchor the conversation and really bring it home, it will just have been a simulation about the events that you talked about. So for example, I'm trying to think of a really common simulation. Okay, the drugs and alcohol simulation, that one. Let's say you play this game, you go through the entire game and you don't do the reflection question. So instead, you are relying on the student's ability to connect that to their life, but you don't explicitly talk about it. So for example, you do this and let's say 2 of the students in your drugs and alcohol simulation lose the game, meaning they died, right? Or 2 of the students make some bad, risky choice and then it really impacts their score towards the end of the game, but they barely survived or they were able to get it back up, okay? Whatever that situation, that is the surface level. So you taught them very much case study based possibilities of what could happen based off of drugs and alcohol and the choices that they made. But the reflection questions at the end are your chance to dig so much deeper and go into the heart of it. And these are the questions where you don't want your reflection questions to be fact-based. You want your reflection questions to be an overarching, almost a personal, emotional, connected question. And even if you just do 1 or 2, I don't really like to write them out. I find that sometimes when we're writing things out, it's more of like exit ticket style, where you just write your answer and you forget about it and you go on, just so you can get out the door. But I really like to have 1 or 2 questions where we sit with it and we really talk. And you have to be okay with silence sometimes. You have to be okay with those moments where no one will talk, or one person might be talking a bit too much and you're gonna have to, you know, get them to draw back a little bit so you can gear it towards other people to talk. But be okay with some of the imperfections of those reflection questions, because some of the most impactful times of my teaching have been in those reflection questions. And so making sure you have the deeper heart of the matter so that when you leave, it leaves on a really impactful note. So that's how I like to structure my classes. And if you've bought any of my resources, you'll probably see that that structure exists. And I just want to tell you that there are ways to get your students fully in, and to help those shy, quiet students engage more, and to help those chatty students maybe use that chattiness, use that, you know, energy in a really good, helpful way, because acting's a really great way. I see some of the craziest stuff thanks to my chatty students, and they make the lessons chef's kiss. Let me know in the comments below if there's any topic that you would really like me to cover. I'm going to be making these, I don't know how often actually. I should probably make decisions about that and wait for my microphone to come. But thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more of these. I'm going to do more health related topics coming up, but I just wanted to start with a more general theme, because I think that how you structure the classroom is actually a really important part about using these lessons. And if I just throw you a topic, you know, that stuff comes later. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.